Welcome, listeners. Right now, I'm sitting on a beach, sipping on a Pornstar martini, surrounded by absolutely gorgeous men. Why? Because it's the hip-hop episode, the first one for Over Underrated. We're joined by special guest Kobi Omenaka of the Flixwatcher podcast and a few others to discuss Puff Daddy and Jurassic 5. So come on board, bring your bling, and join us.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over underrated?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
So, welcome to the latest episode of Over Underrated with Fran and Babs. How are we doing today, Fran?
I am enjoying a week off work.
Me too.
But sadly, I forgot everybody else is at work, so therefore I have done nothing for an entire week.
Does that mean that you're getting a lot of emails from your work, or are you able to really kind of switch off?
Oh, I spent yesterday in bed playing Xbox. I even ordered pizza, so my dart's going really well as well.
Excellent. I spent yesterday doing a lot of day drinking, so I think we're both doing really well. But what have you been listening to recently?
I have been listening to absolutely nothing. No, I tell you a lie. Sea Power released a new single yesterday called Green Goddess, and I need to give it some more time. That's all I've listened to so far because it's early on. But I'm excited tomorrow. An indie band I like called Spectre are releasing their new album. So I'm hoping that will be decent. How about yourself?
Well, after talking in our last episode about how I haven't really been listening to much hip hop, I've been listening to a bit more. I've been listening to French Montana, and I've been listening to the Run the Jewels albums that I don't know as well. So I think, Spotify Rap shook me with how little I've been listening to hip hop. So I think clearly it's done something to me. And hip hop is the theme of today, which is picked by our special guest, Kobi Omenaka. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Omenaka. I'm not really too fussed.
Omenaka.
As long as you get all the kind of letters in the right order, then, you know.
Kobi Omenaka, Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much. And
And what have you been listening to?
Oh, well, Puff Daddy and Jurassic 5. The thing is, I love the Spotify and Wrapped because it was typically a way to gloat to people about how varied my music was. But then this year, we had a son, just a little baby just before lockdown started. And this is the year where his music starts to be pervasive. And when I say his music, it's still the music I like, but it's like that's more to the top of it. So that means the Moanas, the Muppets, and things like that. They're the things that kind of are at the top of my listening list at the moment.
Is Baby Shark still big on the kids' playlist?
It's not one I like to put on that much. No? It's one of those. That's why I stay away from the nursery rhymes because a lot of them tend to be super irritating, and that's why I try to go for the good Disney songs, the good Muppet songs, and also I've been listening to a lot of Flight of the Conchords. So I don't know why particularly,
nice.
But that's always good fun, and I'm getting him to listen to that as well.
Have you gone down the world of children's versions of rock songs? Because that is a whole universe of like The Cure done by violins that's available to children. A lot of my friends with kids, that's a way of not listening to the exact songs that you like, but listening to a more tolerable version. I do recommend that.
I've thought about it, but it just doesn't. I think I'd be annoyed because when I hear the wrong version of a song, I'm like, no.
So cover versions.
No, I like cover versions are fine, but like for example, even. Florence and the Machine. I love Florence and the Machine, but her like You Got Love for me is like I want to hear Candy Staton. But generally, I'm not that snobby about cover versions because I like I like Under the Bridge by All Saints. But some things I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to listen to the version I like, and this is going to play a lot into my discussion about Puff Daddy / P Diddy as well. But sometimes I just think I want to listen to the proper version. And with nursery rhymes, I don't see what's wrong with just playing the kids the proper songs. As well, to be honest with you, give them the nursery rhymes, give them the Muppets, give them Disney, other kid songs. But I'm just if I want to play Enter Sandman, then it's going to be the proper version. There's not going to be a violin Twinkle Twinkle version of this. Just play Enter Sandman, and that's fine. And then we can play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as well, or Wind the Bobbin Up.
Have you heard of the Wiggles before?
I have, and the Wiggles. What song did I play by the Wiggles? Hokey Pokey. there's a Hokey Cokey version on YouTube which my son quite enjoys. But yeah, don't play that on Spotify.
And I'm guessing perhaps you're not playing what you've picked as your overrated choice today, Kobi, to your son. Do you want to tell us who you've picked and why?
So overrated is Puff Daddy / P Diddy. And the reason is, I think there's too much of him. I don't think he's particularly bad as a hip hop artist, but I just think there's better out there. Hence the term overrated. Sorry. And I think he's one of those people. And also, I think I'm not that big a fan of him as a person as well. And I think the kind of his crew that he's linked with as well, I think generally is a bit overrated, a bit more pomp than circumstance in general.
Fran, what was your view coming in on Sean Combs, a.k.a. a million other names?
Well, obviously, I was very aware of his big hit back in the mid-90s, and that's the first time I knew him. And I just remember his videos. Like, I remember him having these massive, expensive border videos with all his mates, and every song would be featured with 1,000 people who I never heard ever again of, guessing who, and him not being the most talented person, but I guess he was just very good at, being the man in the right place at the right time, making as much money as he possibly could. And I remember every video was him telling us how rich he was and how many girls he had. And I think that became like a bit of a 90s kind of thing for some.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't the only one doing that though. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm not the biggest hip hop fan. I can't remember if that's a East Coast trope or West Coast trope, the whole I've got money sort of thing. It
was kind of phrased. I mean, it still happens now, but it's one of those things that does turn a lot of people off from it. And you get that in, it's a common problem because a lot of hip hop is social commentary, and the first album tends to be quite grounded, and then as you kind of progress and you don't have those problems anymore, then it becomes a case of, well, hey, I've got a big car now, so let's talk about that. And this is not a good social commentary band as well in the UK, such as Arctic Monkeys and Pulp. They also suffer the kind of same problem where it's you common people, you resonate with that as an anthem, but then when they're talking about things which are a bit more like you're less interested in it, you find hard to connect with them. And that's where the disconnected thing happens with a lot of hip hop, is that you just don't care that they've got shimmy and they've got Bentleys and stuff. Who gives a toss?
But I guess Puff was a bit different because he was rich from the start, because he'd been working in the industry since the 80s, so he was already a millionaire by the time he became like an artist.
Was he?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that why? Okay, that's probably why he became so big then in terms of musicality quite quickly, because it wasn't talent, as you say.
That explains the note that I wrote, that I told you, Fran. I wrote down, is he like the ultimate networker?
Yeah.
Just, you've picked 5 songs and there's 10 people here. How does he pull in all those favors? And the people in the music videos as well, because we're definitely going to talk about the music videos, and there's some big names there that I'd forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, he produced like TLC, Mary J. Blige.
A good artist.
Yeah, I mean, Kobi, you were talking about that's what put people off hip hop. I think that's what put me off a lot of late 90s, mid noughties hip hop. It was like guns and bling and hoes, and there was for me, Eminem and 50 Cent kind of put me off because of that. Puff Daddy not so much, because I feel like I don't know, there was humor in it. But I think as someone who wasn't automatically into hip hop, I was like, oh my God, if this is all that hip hop is, I'm not interested, because I think people like Little Kim and Foxy Brown, the women, talking very interestingly about sex and stuff, that totally passed me by because I was too young and it just wasn't as big in the UK where I was growing up.
Yeah,
I think Missy Elliott was the exception. I've always liked her. She was always great and avant-garde. And it's only been since about 2014 where I've been like, okay, actually, no, come on, you must there must be hip hop for you out there, and there is definitely. But my knowledge is kind of all over the place.
Well, Missy Elliott's quite an interesting one because a lot of her videos are a similar style to Puff Daddy's, and I'd always give her a lot more leeway.
Oh yeah.
Than Puff Daddy. And there's a guy called Hype Williams who did a lot of these music videos for Notorious B.I.G. and the Bad Boys. I think I'm pretty sure Hype did a lot of Missy's videos as well.
Yeah, he did.
Busta Rhymes as well, I think, was a big
that was another. I think was it Give Me Some More?
Mm-hmm.
No, what was the really creepy music video where he's in like a haunted house? That scared the shit out of me.
With the psycho strings behind it.
Oh man, like that. But that and Break Your Neck, I enjoyed at the time, and but for me it was always like, it's something in the background, but it's not something I really like. But with Puff Daddy, like, I wasn't as fussed about him. And there is a certain charisma to him, and like I said, a sense of humor in his music videos that I'd forgotten. And some of these I'd never seen before, and they are absolutely batshit. I can't wait to get into it. But I think so. Coming in, I'm like, is it overrated? I don't know. I think I'll see how I feel at the end of the conversation. But yeah, let's get into it.
Overrated.
What's your first pick from your playlist?
Oh, the first pick was I'll Be Missing You, which is probably the song that Fran was referring to in terms of his song. And yeah, so that's the one that most people know him by. And it was the second biggest single, I'm in the States at least, of that year.
Wow.
Does anyone know what the biggest single?
Candle in the Wind?
Yeah, 2 songs about people who were, or commemorating or commiserating people who died in that year. It's quite interesting. I didn't like either song particularly. To be honest with you, I like Candle in the Wind, but I thought that it was a bit too much, being around too much. Obviously, I was sad that Princess Diana died, but I wasn't that big of a fan of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Were you sad that Notorious B.I.G. died?
No, I was more of my history with hip hop is more checkered. Generally, my music style, my music taste is very varied, and I like anything generally apart from really heavy metal, really heavy rock. They're the kind of things I'd stay away from. So I grew up in Manchester, and my first gig was Oasis in 1996 in Main Road. And I've seen a lot of different types of artists through that time. And, from Bruce Springsteen to U2 to, Jay-Z, and I've even seen Slipknot and stuff like that. Just I wanted to see what that looked like. Mm-hmm. So my knowledge of this my knowledge of hip hop is kind of scattered and not that deep. So when Notorious B.I.G. died, I was aware of it, but I was like, I didn't really like his stuff anyway, which is a bit harsh. But I think looking back at it, I prefer Tupac stuff more than Biggie stuff. But even then, I prefer other things to what Tupac and Biggie did. And so I wasn't really sad. I was just like, there's a guy who's died now, unfortunately. It's sad. It's never a good thing. But c'est la vie almost. It sounds a bit callous now I think about it. Sounds very callous. I
found out who Notorious B.I.G. was because of this song.
Same.
Like that's it. And like Candle in the Wind, this song was massively, massively overplayed. I was thinking, rewatching the video, I remembered it so well. And this was a time where I didn't have music television. So this was just from, on channels 1 to 4, it would be on all the time. And analyzing it, with an older brain, I think it is quite a clever use of a sample, and it has nice harmonies, and the lyrics are a nice expression of grief. He has these lines, which is, in my heart is where I'll keep you, friend. Memories give me the strength I need to proceed, strength I need to believe. My thoughts big, I just can't define. So it feels very earnest and believable, but just so overplayed at the time that I really
overrated songs. But I put this at number 1 because I don't think it's the biggest defender of Puff Daddy and his style. But what really made me laugh when I found out was that Puff Daddy didn't write the lyrics. Someone else wrote the lyrics, which kind of sets out the stall for me as Puff Daddy. And when Fran said he was talentless, I didn't know if he knew whether he wrote the lyrics for his songs. I don't know if he wrote lyrics for other songs. But for me, this is like a massive, like, he's written a song about one of his best friends, and he's like pulled his best friend's ex-wife into it, but he didn't write the lyrics. He didn't write those words he just said. Every day I pray for you. He doesn't have the talent to even write that. And the song is not. The lyrics aren't that strong. They're not that in depth. They're not that complicated. But yet he wasn't the one to do it, and that's the kind of thing. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. They do resonate, though. If you go and look at the YouTube
Absolutely.
Comments, so many people are like, my mum just died and I'm listening to the song crying. Definitely not sophisticated.
I think they are strong, and it's never, it's the use of samples versus use of covering stuff. That's a whole discussion. In this case, I think it's fine.
That's a whole discussion.
To be honest with you. So I've got no real problems with it. But then when I found out he didn't write the actual lyrics, it was just like, you're not that good, are you? At all.
Come on, mate. And you agree?
Well, I guess you could call this like jukebox hip hop. He's taken a song that everyone loved and rapped over it. This is also, if you're a fan of The Police, then you're going to probably like this already. I remember
when you go into your stories about previous relationships,
and she was
very relevant.
And she really enjoyed this song, so I brought her the best of the plea, thinking about maybe we have a connection. She never,
so cool.
She never listened to it. I was so angry. I used to always find it bizarre. So this is a song about his dead friend.
Yeah.
So why does Puffy need to have a motorcycle crash in the video? So what? We feel sorry for him, but he's had a fake accident as well.
He can't concentrate.
Or is it that he's just so upset about it that he keeps falling off his motorbike because he can't concentrate? That was it. I was like, I think that's quite bad taste.
Yeah.
But there we go.
If I rapped over one of the greatest songs of the 80s, would people enjoy it? Maybe. I don't know. So
give it a try. Let's put it on our SoundCloud, which
and it
doesn't
seems
exist.
to be a trait that Puff has. We're going to be talking about one of another song when he just steals a number one classic and then raps over it, which is kind of semi-cheating, maybe. You know, the other band we're going to talk about, you know, they're a bit more, you know, interesting with their sample choices. It's not like, it's like, you know, if I chose Thriller or a master song by Michael Jackson, people listen to it because, it's that song I like.
I feel instantly like my parents.
It's kind of...
when they're like, yeah, but hip hop it's not new music, it's regurgitating stuff we used to dance to. I'm like, yeah, but that's fine. But a lot of the time you don't know the reference in the sample. And I love it when you do learn what that sample is. But then it's a different thing when it's a song that's almost too pervasive that you think, is that cheating away? Maybe not. But, you know, in this case, like I say, I don't think this is the worst offender in any way, shape or form.
No. I think I've mentioned it on it before, but Mark Ronson did a TED talk about sampling that is very convincing about, you know, kind of why it's a good thing and why hip hop gets a bad rep for it when it's not just, it often isn't just taking something, it's kind of reimagining it and redoing it. But yeah, I think one of the songs later on, we're definitely gonna have a discussion about that. But the next pick, Kobi, I thought was a sample, but I don't think it is. It is original guitars, isn't it?
Bad Boy for Life.
So yeah, what's your second pick?
And this is where you brought in at the top that P. Diddy, I'm not sure if it's because, I don't want to say he's not talented, but he needs other people around him to make things sing. And I think this is one of the comments I'd say to a lot of hip hop is that often the best tracks, often the best songs are ones where it's featuring X or featuring Y or whatever. And that's why I think the hip hop bands I tend to lean towards are the ones where it's a group. So you already have that kind of inbuilt variety of timbre of voices or a couple, you know, different people writing the beats. So it's already ingrained into the act. Whereas with Puff Daddy and some other solo acts, they need to have people pulled in, and that's not always the case. Like Kanye West, Jay-Z, they'll have some amazing tracks where it's just them doing doing the stuff. But I can't think of a track with P. Diddy where he is. Well, I think of one which I'll bring in later, which is not on the list, where it's just his voice all the way through. And I think this is one of the worst ones for me. I'm just like, yeah, sure, you just got your friends on here and you're doing a thing. Have fun with it. There's lots of people I've not heard of before or will again from this. So. It was.
Mark Cowie was a Blue Peter presenter when I was growing up. I don't think it is him on the track.
Blue Peter Mark Cowie.
Never know. He could have diversified. What did you think, Fran?
I knew this track. It's interesting. I can't decide if I enjoy the guitar bit or if it sounds like my first guitar solo. It's a bit like ding ding. Like ding ding, like I'm looking for each note and playing it. I think that he probably needed to have another singer to make this a better track. I think it misses something. It goes on for like 5.5 minutes, and after a minute, you get it. And I think it needs maybe like maybe a female singer, like you had Faith Evans earlier, to give it another push in the chorus, because otherwise I think it just becomes a bit naff. And yeah, this is another video, and he's got his cool friends. I think he's got Travis Barker and Dave Navarro. He's even got Crazy Town at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
Which dates him massively.
See, I didn't watch any of the videos, so I'm relying on when I saw these videos when we did have.
Treat yourself, Kobi.
Life when I was.
Treat yourself afterwards. Honestly, like it was so enjoyable to watch the videos.
There's a period of my life when I was at university when we just sit in the lounge, me and housemates, and we'd have one TV which had a PlayStation 2 at the time, and one TV which had MTV, MTV2, MTV Base, just kind of on rotation. And this will be one that came on quite a lot. So I'm just thinking back to that time, like 20 odd years ago. Yikes.
Yeah. Again, so I knew the song, and I remembered the video, despite once again not really having music TV.
Is this the one that's got Ben Stiller in it as
yes,
well?
where he does a very funny bit, kind of interrupting him, and yeah, it's a very tongue-in-cheek video. It's very nicely done. I love this song. Like, I unapologetically love this song. It is catchy, even though, again, analyzing it, I'm like, it is the most unconvincing chorus in the world. They're like, we are bad boys for life. I'm like, you don't sound like bad boys at all. Like, it's like you say, it sounds like he's got his mates around, so they're like, oh, we're so hard, let's do a song about how hard we are. But I quite like the guitar, and I don't know, I think I read a bit about Mace because he comes up in another song, and there's this whole thing about like, he's had such an enduring influence because he's got a lazy yet melodic flow. And I think this also has a lazy and melodic flow. I don't mind like a Mace or a Q-Tip where it's just, almost speak rapping.
Q-Tip's my boy.
Yeah, I love Q-Tip. Yeah, and I'm not, he is much better than the rapping on this song, but I think it's that similar thing of just laid back. I quite enjoy it.
I think one thing with this song is, I think one thing with Puff Daddy and his tunes in general is they're good for when you're out on the student night and it comes on, and it's good to kind of, you're on the dance and you think, yeah, I'm going to keep moving with this. But when it finishes, I'm like, no, I haven't bought any Puff Daddy albums or singles, and I think there's a clear reason for that. And I think that's the same, not just with hip hop, but I think there's some, like, a lot of dance music. I own very few dance albums because they're great for the club, but at home, I don't sit at home, reading the Guardian thinking, yeah, let's put on Cafe Del Mar. I mean, I think Puff Daddy is club friendly. That's the thing. And I think that's why he's more pervasive, because you hear in the club, you think, yeah. But then as soon as the song finishes, I'm not that interested. And I think there's very few acts. I think Prodigy would be one of them where I'm happy to put the Prodigy album or any Prodigy album and listen to it from start to finish. Yeah. Home rave with the baby. That's probably what
I'll play. Why not? Get him started young.
Back to the Land, starts with Smack a Bitch Up. He'll love it.
Don't watch the video with him.
No, watch the video with him. But yeah, Puff Daddy's good for the club. But I think for me, a lot of it is I don't feel I care when I'm at home to listen to any Puff Daddy. So
this next song is Tell Me, featuring Christina Aguilera. I had never heard of the song in my life. And I was surprised that it was from 2006, because for me, I thought this was late 90s, early noughties. It didn't reinvent the wheel. It reminded me a little bit the synth strings of Beautiful Liar by Shakira and Beyonce as well. I don't know if either of you got that. And I thought it was very uninspiring. But when I saw the music video, it was, again, very entertaining. So it starts with a very good-looking woman asking Puff Daddy if she can put on a CD. So she puts on a CD, again, immediately dating it. And then basically he's in a wind tunnel with Christina Aguilera. And I think, the pumping up and the club vibes and the dancing, I was like, do you know what? This isn't that bad with the video. The video enhances it. So, I
mean, there was definitely a package proposition, Puff Daddy. That's the thing. He knew how to package himself and other people around him. And it looked, I mean, this is why we're so happy. I was super happy to have MTV Base on with Puff Daddy on rotation, because he put on a good show.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember this, but I thought it was earlier. I thought this is like, when Christina Aguilera had like a revamp. I thought that was that era, but I guess it's a lot later on. And interesting, when I was checking out the YouTube clips, every single comment was about Christina Aguilera. No one mentions Aguilera. No one mentions Puff Daddy. The entire thing. It's about Aguilera's voice is amazing, she looks amazing, and not one person ever mentions Puff Daddy. Which is kind of maybe what he did. He knew how to be relevant, and he knew, if I take this talent, then this will be a big hit, and I don't need to do anything.
I'm better. Yeah. I'm better by vicariously.
Exactly. Although on Wikipedia it says that it wasn't a big hit in the US due to lack of promotion. Apparently, it was in other areas. But yeah, I never heard of it before, and actually I hadn't heard of any of the rest of the songs on the playlist, Kobi. And yeah, the next one is quite something.
Being around the world,
indeed. Indeed.
And this features Notorious B.I.G., doesn't it? Yeah.
And Mace.
Ish.
Yeah.
Been Around the World is, when it talks about I'll Be Missing You using Police, I think they've done it well, fine. But this is horrific because, first of all, I think this and Heroes, it samples Let's Dance by David Bowie. Let's Dance is probably my favourite Bowie song alongside Heroes. It's a controversial choice because it's quite mainstream.
I think not on this podcast, I would say.
Sure.
Yeah,
Great. It's great to hear that.
It's for me. I think it's pretty good. Fran is being more mysterious, but yeah.
I mean, if you're going to sample a Bowie track for hip hop, using a Noel Rodgers production, it's going to work, surely.
Or not, depending on what your opinion is.
But then the chorus then is jarring because it's like, been around the world and I can't. No, that's what you want to say. I can't find my baby. So it's pulling two songs together.
I mean, come on.
Putting two songs together, which are both fantastic in their separate rights, and making them both and making it. This is probably my worst Puff Daddy song. It's one of those things that gets my heckles up every single time I hear it. And then I want to put on Let's Dance and Been Around the World separately
To get over it.
Yeah, I'm sure Lisa Stansfield is happy to get some more royalties. That's one thing. If you look at Spotify at the credits, there's literally 10 people per song. I'd love to know how much money they're actually making after all the samples are paid.
I often think about that with bands like the Polyphonic Spree and Arcade Fire. I just kind of think you need to be absolutely amazing, otherwise you're not making that much money. And the people like Jack Johnson, they need to sell a 10.
Ed Sheeran, for example, does Wembley by himself.
Exactly.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a very relevant point, because I read an article recently that I think a Justin Bieber song won a Grammy and it had 11 songwriters, and I think it was like the record for most songwriters. And that's a debate that's happening at the moment of like, what is this music by numbers? And I think I'm still very like, well, if the song sounds good, I don't really care how many people are on it. But yeah, it's quite surprising to see the Puffers doing this back in '97. So yeah, but did you like it, Fran, or not?
I remember this coming out and I just thought it's on the spot. Like, did they just find any audio of Notorious B.I.G. and had him at one point at a karaoke bar singing badly to Lisa Stansfield and then clipped that and made it into a single? Because that's what I can, like, why else would he say it?
Oh, so was this posthumously?
Yeah. This was on the album with Missing You after he had passed away.
Okay.
It could have been that he recorded that before. I don't know.
But for what reason? Him just singing the chorus badly? It's like, it's strange. So I always found it uninspired. It relies too much on the sample. They add anything else to it whatsoever. The video is 10 minutes long, epic
video. So Kobi, if you don't remember it, we can give you some cliff notes where, so Quincy Jones is in it. He's a spy. He calls up Puff Daddy because there's going to be an assassination attempt on the president of Tunisia at his daughter's 21st birthday. So he gets on a private plane, but there's someone trying to sabotage on it. So they have to jump out in a parachute. They land in the desert where some, swarthy Arab men look menacing, but then it's fine because they know who Puff Daddy is. And they make it to the party where Jennifer Lopez is there looking very pretty. There's this little kind of dance number that has nothing to do with it. It's like a little fantasy bit where they do a bit of a tango, and of course Puff Daddy saves the day. So there we go.
Do you know what? I love that. I love that kind of nonsense, because this is one of the things I feel sorry for modern artists nowadays, is that they don't have
budget.
People don't watch the music videos that much, or they don't have much money to put into music videos in the way they did do at this kind of time. That is insane. But I'm glad they were able to enjoy it, and I feel sorry for artists now that Spotify, they don't get as many royalties. So I feel like you just kind of they've missed the boat by 20 years. But that sounds brilliant.
Honestly, because I'd never seen the video before, and I messaged Fran like, "Oh my god, have you seen this? This is incredible." I'm kind of sad that I didn't know at the time, but delighted to have discovered it in 2022. I think I like this song, guys. I know it. So it came on, and because it was called Been Around the World, I was like, is he going to sample Been Around the World? And then Let's Dance came on, and it totally threw me. I don't mind it sort of slowed down. I think it becomes even funkier, and it just makes me laugh so much that Notorious B.I.G. is saying he's been player hated to Lisa Stansfield. I can't help but be charmed. I mean, I'm not, again, it's like you say, Kobi, I'm not going to go buy the single and put it on, but yeah, I enjoyed listening to it once, so I can't say I disliked it, I'm afraid.
I enjoyed listening to it about once.
Yeah, about once.
I always kind of thought that like Puff Daddy wanted to be Will Smith in a way, that he wanted to become a film star, and these music videos were like his show reel. Look, guys, look what I can do. Hire me.
The acting is atrocious. Like when him and Mesa are in trouble on the private plane, I'm like, guys, I mean, they're clearly friends. They're clearly having a good time, and that comes across. But that's what makes it even funny, because they're just totally bombastic, but you can't take it seriously. Okay, Jennifer Lopez is acting well. Even Quincy Jones is doing a decent turn as spy on the phone. But yeah, absolutely terrible acting. It's brilliant. You have to go watch it, Kobi. It's excellent.
He was in that film Get Into the Greek, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Puff Daddy.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
He's done a couple. He's
I'm
done
not gonna watch
a
that film
couple of
again.
little cameos over the next 10 years, I think.
I can imagine if you got all the money in the world, I'm going to be in your next film. Is that okay? Sure.
So what's your final pick from the Puff Daddy playlist?
The final pick was PE 2000. I can't remember what PE means.
I think it might be Public Enemy
yeah.
because that's who they
Oh,
sample.
that's right. Yeah. And I mean, you're sampling one of the best hip hop acts in the world for your own nonsense. And one of the things that annoys me about, I think it tends to be a lot more hip hop than others, is this kind of intro stream of nonsense consciousness before the song even starts. And this is one of the worst offenses, where this woman just talks about nothing before the song even starts. You kind of think, well, why are you here exactly? And then the song, and when she's in the song proper, it's good. She's good in the song, but at the start, it's like, why is this happening?
Was this actually released in 1999 so people could dance to this at midnight? Was that the idea? A bit like Robbie Williams and Will Smith doing the same kind of approach?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
PE 2000.
Yeah, it must have been.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know.
It's trying to get on the board for 1999 band. Yeah, but I don't remember this playing at midnight in 1999, to be fair. I completely forgot about this song existing. Yeah, it's kind of scandalous to sample. Like, did no one say no to him regarding samples?
What secrets does he have?
I mean, apart from
thinking.
the Beatles, he pretty much can sample anyone, apparently.
Well, the Sting one, apparently he just took it and then released it, and then Sting was like, hold on. And then Puff was like, okay, you can have some credit. So Sting obviously a lot of money, in the same way that Verve did with Bittersweet and Rolling Stones. They just kind of took it and then they're like, yeah, you can have the money. But I don't know. He was just what's that adage with filmmakers? Good filmmakers steal, bad directors kind of copy. I don't know. There's something like that, isn't there? Where you just be so brazen with it, then it just doesn't matter. It's just beyond the pale.
Tarantino approach, you mean?
Yeah, Tarantino. Yeah, that's what I said about Tarantino. But the one song of Puff Daddy's, so I don't know if you finished talking about this one, but obviously go back to PE 2000, is "Come With Me," which was used in the Godzilla soundtrack. That is a song I'll happily play any drop of a hat.
I had
samples.
Completely forgotten about that song, and it's just come back in my mind the moment you said it. It's a great song.
It's a great song,
Yeah.
and this is one where it's just him singing, but it's to the background of it's Deeper in the not Deeper in the Ground. That's Jamiroquai, which is a different song on that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, and that's just, I think it's just brilliant, and it's a good length, and that's his best song encapsulated. And he's got a big sample. And I remember I saw a video of him saying, "I just woke up one day and this song was playing." And I was like, right, that's going to be I'm going to use that for the soundtrack, and I think it does amazingly.
I think I'm embarrassed because that was the first time I'd ever heard Kashmir.
Same.
And I think that's why I liked it, because I didn't know it was Led Zeppelin. I didn't know it was destroying someone's favourite tune. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that helped it a little bit.
Well, that's why I feel like my grandparents, because my parents, because I think we didn't know. It's probably one of the reasons we liked it, because we didn't know it's Kashmir. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons it gets our heckles up when I hear "Let's Dance" or "Been Around the World" or whatever it's called, is I loved that song before he destroyed it. In my mind, I'm sure that's a lot of reasons why people like or take to a song. That's
what something does. I think it crosses the generations, because definitely I remember growing up and hearing certain songs, and my parents would be like, "Oh, you know that this is a cover, or you know that this is a sample." No, because I was 12. I had no idea. So yeah, and there's songs that every, 15, 20 years, someone does a cover, someone does a version and exposes it to a new generation. But yeah, with PE 2000, I didn't know it. I thought it was the worst song on the list, definitely forgettable and disinteresting. But once again, the video absolutely makes up for it. So firstly, I want to say that it definitely Justin Timberlake, "Rock Your Body." That's where he took inspiration from. The background, the light background is exactly that. He's getting chased in a Lamborghini by a helicopter. The wind tunnel is back. And Fran, do you want to talk about the little dance move that he does?
Well, yeah, I mean, this was his "Yes Sir" period. And like only Puff Daddy could say, "Hey, how about I have like a scene where it's just me dancing and doing the robot," and no one going, "Actually, Puff, maybe not." So yeah, it's awkward as fucking hell. And please, if you can check out Puff Daddy doing the robot for no reason in PE 2000.
Back to Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa as well,
another
which
classic.
is just wild. And that's not even a sample. It is literally to that. But I mean,
so what? It just stops the video, stops the music that he's promoting in this promo video and plays a full other. Okay,
and then there's a scene for no reason when he walks into a crowd of ladies in a club topless. It's literally just like, what the fuck is happening?
With a big cross on his chest, and they all flock to him. But I mean, this is the thing: the fucking audacity of it. You have to admire it. I couldn't help but admire it. I think because there is a bit of a twinkle in his eye, and I think because of the bad acting and the sheer good time he's having on all this. This is like a teenage boy's fantasy. It's like, I just want to become big and drive fast cars, see a helicopter, some lovely women. The end. So yeah, I think I even wrote down the lyrics from Been Around the World where he says, I was in one bedroom dreaming of a million. Now I'm in beach houses, cream to the ceiling. I was a gentleman living in tenements. Now I'm swimming in all the women that B10s. And you're just like, I mean, come on, mate. Absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Fran, then we come to the conclusion. Do you think that Puff Daddy is overrated?
Well, I mean, what's his legacy? I mean, has he done anything of worth since 2006? I know he brought out an album in 2010. I've not heard. I watched a documentary, as per usual, last night on YouTube of his life, and give it a miss. He made it himself, and is there anyone in modern hip hop who's influenced by Puff Daddy? I don't know. So if I think he had 10 years of being one of those hip hop artists that became the household name and then vanished. And I think if he was, regarded as being a decent artist, you'd still be playing his albums now. I don't know anyone who's playing a Puff Daddy album today. So overrated for me.
I don't know. I honestly couldn't give you a very easy and direct answer because I really enjoyed this playlist that Kobi put together. It was very nostalgic, obviously, in parts. And the music videos just make him obviously so unique. I think we mentioned there were lots of people doing music videos with the good-looking women and the cars, etc., etc. But there's something about him as, an artist in the wider sense, which does stand out a little bit. But is he an influential artist or is he a tastemaker? Is he someone bringing together all these people? I don't know. But I would actually not rush to call him overrated because I really enjoyed some of this, and I'm going to go and listen to. Was it called "Come to Me"? Come to You? I wouldn't say he's underrated, but
it's not Come With Me. It's not on Spotify, which is probably a big book there. So I always have to watch it or listen to it on.
That's a great soundtrack. That Godzilla soundtrack.
Yeah, the Jamiroquai song as well, also excellent. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's underrated, but I would hesitate to call him overrated at this stage.
And just comparing to other hip hop artists, I'm not comparing. I mean, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, even Kanye's first couple albums, massively huge albums, fantastic artists. They absolutely blow Puff Daddy out of the water in any way, shape, or form. But yet Puff Daddy was there. Jay-Z, when I've seen him rapping, he just pulls off lyrics off the top of his head. Snoop Dogg is super cool. Kanye is production genius and also he has lyrically sound. And I just think compared to those guys, I don't understand how Puff Daddy's done it, apart from he's got some algorithms that work, like bring in either one super famous person or three less than super famous people and copy and sample big song. And I'd wager that when you listen to his album, there might be two good songs and the rest will be like, this is shit. This is shit. In the way that a lot of artists were, and still are, that, they'll have two good songs and that's it. And the rest is super fill. And I'd imagine that'll be the rest of his, that'll be how his albums are set up.
Well, so yeah, 2 out of 3. Stamp Puff Daddy, overrated. But I had a great time. So thank you, Kobi, for picking him. So guys, all I have to tell you is, for the love of God, go and check out all the Puff Daddy music videos and go and listen to Come With Me because it is an absolute banger. All I'm going to say as we go into part 2, Jurassic 5.
Underrated.
So moving on from Puff Daddy, Kobi, who is your underrated pick today?
Underrated pick is Jurassic 5.
Let's get into it. Who are they and why do you like them?
again, this is, you asked me earlier about my music style, and I don't actually know much about them except that I love them, and I have 3 of their albums, and I think they're great. Common popular misconception: there's actually 6 people in Jurassic 5, which is the first thing to clear out. But one of the main reasons I love Jurassic 5 is, as I said before, a lot of the artists are like, they don't need to pull random guest appearances to make the songs good. They already have the MCs in there to make each song super fluid, super their own style. It's the same as De La Soul and other guys. But one of the main reasons I love it is a guy called Charlie Tuna, whose voice as a lyricist and as an MC and his flow is probably my favorite in all of hip hop. Every time I hear him on a thing, I'm just like, this guy is just like amazing. And when I've seen him live, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be massive. I thought it was going to be bigger than Notorious B.I.G., but it was really tall but quite skinny. And so how have you got that voice, and how are you putting this flow onto these tracks? But it's just amazing.
Had you heard of them, Fran? Did you know about Jurassic 5?
Yeah. So working in Virgin Megastore, this was like the cool hip hop album to have, and I think the second album was in a way their debut album. Is it Great Expectations? Is it
Quality Control? No, yeah,
and that was the album which would always make it on stereo. And I think they were quite clever that early on they toured with a lot of alternative rock bands and the bands. So therefore,
Fiona Apple, I read.
So therefore, they broaden into other people's minds. A bit like the Prodigy. The Prodigy could play metal festivals, dance festivals. They could do and I think Jurassic 5.
And then support Oasis.
Yeah, exactly. And they could do it all. I think Jurassic 5 were a bit like that. They never said, "Oh, we are only going to be hip hop artists," and they played with other people. And I think that's why they're liked by a broader audience than other people. So I never really knew any of the MCs themselves. Obviously, Charlie Tuna's got a distinct tone, but even now, like doing research, I can't tell who is doing what verse. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I always knew that if I wanted to impress somebody who's into hip hop, if I mentioned Jurassic 5, I get some kudos.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, because I think I had heard of them, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard of them. I would have not even guessed they were hip hop. It's a name. So I came in completely blind to this, and they're classified as alternative hip hop, and it did make me think, like, what is alternative hip hop? Is it that it's a bit more cerebral? Is it because they're deliberately sort of harking back to old school hip hop, and that makes them alternative? Because why should this be alternative? I also wrote down, are they the Gilmore Girls of rap? Because the references in this there's so many references that I'm sure I'm barely scratching the surface, which I
don't know what you mean by the Gilmore Girls thing. I generally have not watched an episode of Gilmore Girls.
Haven't? Okay, so Gilmore Girls is basically extremely reference laden of high culture, low culture, Paul Anka, but then I don't know, Gilda Radner and who knows?
Gilda Radner's a deep cut.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Paul Anka is the name of the dog, so that's definitely in Gilmore Girls. And Gilmore Girls, they speak so quickly, which is one of the tenets, that they have more pages of script per episode than the average episode length, just because they speak fast and they can get all the references in, and that's why it made me think of that. I thought they were super interesting, and I enjoyed getting to know them.
I think when people just often put labels to a quote unquote genre, and I think saying they're alternative hip hop is just a way of saying alt rock or heavy metal. But I think hip hop doesn't have those kind of distinct categories that often, that people don't really think about. They just kind of think, oh, hip hop's this thing, and that's part of the reason for bringing on like J5. I much prefer this kind of stuff with like this, and like say Q-Tip and Tribe and De La Soul, to the big bombastic showy offy stuff of Puff Daddy. But there's a range of hip hop there which is out there, and this is one that I think doesn't get much cop these days.
Yeah, and like discussing sampling earlier, this band are choosing like jazz samples and making their own distinct beats, and scratching and adding lots of interesting production, rather than just maybe a slightly lazier, just relying on that one sample hook to take them through. They're constantly making interesting hooks out of samples that I haven't ever heard before. So and they have such a chemistry between them. You can tell they've been together for, you know, maybe 10 years before they even released their big album. So they instantly just bounce off each other, which is, I think, what Kobi mentioned earlier with Puff Daddy. You know, he's just bringing in guns for hire and there's no real chemistry. But these guys, they seem to instantly just bounce off each other all the time. It's, you know, makes it like a dynamic sound, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I think what I found quite interesting is, I mean, it made me think of the Beastie Boys a lot, actually.
Yes.
And I'm thinking that Beastie Boys took a lot from them, especially in early 2000s. What you don't know when they're going to come in. It's not, you know, someone raps for 4 lines, someone raps for 4 lines. It comes in so it feels very stream of consciousness and it takes you in directions that you don't expect. And I really enjoyed that. And I think, yeah, having 4 rappers and 2 DJs just makes it interesting because everyone's going to be contributing something different, as you say. Yeah. So what's your first pick from the list, Kobi?
So the first pick is Concrete Schoolyard. From what I think J5 was the first album, but I think it's like an EP that expanded out into an album.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this is the song that hooked me into Concrete Schoolyard. And it starts off with a brief sample. I'm pretty sure it's Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show, which is obviously, each time I hear it at the song, I'm like, oh no. But then the song kicks in properly and you're just like,
you can forget about him.
Yeah. I just love the flow. I just love everything about this song. It's just kind of, this is where I can lay back and read The Guardian on a Sunday and listen to it and do my head nodding stuff, as well as can drive, you know, from London to Manchester and still listen to it. And I can enjoy it in many different ways.
Yeah, this is the track I remember. I think this is like the gateway track into J5's world. As I mentioned before, you know, it's got such a cool vibe and those jazz samples. I imagine I don't want to say they're the thinking men's hip hop, but like it does seem like, you know, they really care about the production. You know, like if you listen to the way the beats bounce off each other, it's like, you know, you can tell they spent a long time creating this music. Other than, you know, like I said before, I think some other hip hop artists may just, you know, have a beat and a sample and that would do. They seem to really sort of like care maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I didn't know a single song on this playlist. This was a really nice introduction. Definitely sounds like a school song, which reminded me of the Go Team as well, because they do that too. They're bringing in repetitive piano and stuff like that. I enjoyed it. Lyrics were absolutely full of references, you know, and I wonder, is it a sort of a song dissing current hip hop? Because there are lyrics like, let's take it back to the concrete streets, original beats with real live MCs, playground tactics, no rabbit in a hat tricks, which makes me think of Skilo. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller, etc. And then they talk about Tanzania, Transylvania, Wall of China, your Brenner, Spinal Tap, absolutely chock full. Really, really enjoyable, really interesting.
Yeah, it does sound like they're a bit more well-read, or they, you know, they've paid attention at school and then went back and made the beats. I think when I think of alternative hip hop bands I think of the Anti-Pop Consortium, which they're a bit weirder. Their beats are a bit kind of literally edgier, but it's similar kind of. I wrote kind of cerebral rap. You know, I think as Fran said, it's not like you don't have to use big words and be clever to have enjoyable hip hop, but it definitely adds a layer because it feels really like poetry. Yeah, and that's where at its best, it really is poetry. And I mean, a lot of people really, 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 really rate Notorious B.I.G. as a lyricist and his flow. I just never got into him that much. And people to this day say he's one of the best flow-wise. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's, you know, the kind of things that these guys put together, Tribe Called Quest, Roots, and they're a lot more my kind of vibe than anything that Notorious B.I.G. did.
And also, like, lyrically, I think at the time, I think I was personally sick of, like, you know, 50 Cent or somebody saying about how rich and how great they are. You know, these guys don't talk about how rich and how amazing they are. You know, they're just talking about like relatable stuff, you know. So I wasn't put off by that thing at all. And I think DJ Newmark, I saw in a little mini documentary, he always tried to produce beats by just walking around the bathroom and like hitting things and stuff, which I kind of and here's like turning on like taps back and forth. It's like, well, no, so instantly I'm gonna be enjoying his creativity far more than just someone just pressing, you know, beat number 6 off a keyboard, you know. So
yeah, it's interesting how hip hop absolutely gets that rep, right? Like I said at the beginning, I got put off by the kind of machismo and guns and hoes and everything. But it's not like rock stars aren't assholes either. But I think it's as Kobi said, hip hop is seen as social commentary, and I think the lyrics are much more center stage and they hit you much harder. And I think if you don't relate, it feels more personal. It's a bit like how people with comedy, if they don't like comedy, they can take it very personally. They can go and tweet at a comedian like, "You're not funny," and it's like, but why? So what? Like
other people think you are.
Yeah. Why do you feel so personally insulted that this person wasn't funny? It's not for you. That's fine. Move on. But yeah, what's the second song on your list, Kobi?
The second song is Jurassic, Finish First. Mm-hmm. Just a bouncy little song.
Yeah, they have piano, strings, and jazz going on in a song that seems to be, again, sort of dissing current hip hop. But there are these lyrics which say, J5 make you a little gaseous at first. Martin Lawrence, and yes, I make you ask, is that Lurch? And I was like, what? Why is Martin Lawrence? And then of course I Googled it, and I found something on Reddit which is talking about so apparently one of them Mark 7 looks a bit like Martin Lawrence, and Charlie Tuna sounds like Lurch from the Addams Family, so it's a bit of an in joke. But I was like, right, okay, I would have never got there without the help of the internet. But yeah, I think this was maybe actually my least favorite on the list, but I still enjoyed it.
I read that. So Charlie and Mark 7 would like to do a thing when they copied each other's flow. So it's only those two on the track. I think, I can see why. Like when I was a kid, I couldn't understand why the Wu-Tang Clan needed so many members. But now looking back, I think it's just because when you have a basic beat sometimes, having different sounds of vocals just adds to the track. If it's the same person, it can be a bit too simplified. And I think having the different voices does create, a far more interesting listen. I enjoyed the cello on this. It's like a really cool cello climb. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is up there because I really like the jazz piano stabs all the way through it. So it's a decent track for me.
And the sample's from a song from 1954. So yeah,
and it has I think Snoop's dad is at the start and Charlie's mum's at the end, I believe.
Oh, I was wondering who they were. Right, yeah, that was quite entertaining. So at the end of being like, "Oh, you're still doing that rapping?" That was quite fun. But the next pick, I would say, some similarities maybe on the sample, but a little bit different. Kobi, do you want to introduce us to the third track?
That is JU, and that's off the first album stroke extended EP. And this is probably one of my favorite ones. And it's just, again, the music, the beats and the music is just so uplifting. Within the first bar, I'm into it straight away. Every single time it plays, I love it. Love it. Yeah,
I wrote, the flute isn't just for Lizzo and Anchorman. It starts immediately with the flute. It starts with them spelling out their name, which I found quite charming. I enjoyed this song. I think this was a song where I was like, wow, I can really tell where the Beastie Boys have come from. But this is the song that really made me think of the Cardinal Burns sketch that I emailed you about before. I don't know, Kobi, if you had a chance to watch it.
Is that the old school hip hop versus
exactly? I just, unfortunately, because I don't listen to that much old school hip hop, and I just had that sketch in the back of my mind, I couldn't unhear it, which it was a bit problematic. But I still managed to enjoy it despite having, what is he saying? Like, I like a cup of tea, like something like that. But yeah, Fran, what did you think?
So yeah, I put down Go Team mainly because of the flute.
Yeah,
I think the Beastie Boys influenced Jurassic 5 maybe
as well.
I think Beastie Boys because
they started to sort of like do that sort of like groove sampling in like Paul's Boutique, like in that sort of era in the early 90s.
Yeah, this is where the gaps in my knowledge start showing, because I think the only Beastie, like I enjoy Beastie Boys, but
you're thinking Intergalactic.
Well, Intergalactic number one, but actually the only album that I've listened all the way through, and it's not because I don't want to listen to the others, but just the one that clicked with me immediately was To the Five Boroughs, which is from 2004, and I was like, well, this is before 2004. And there's a lot of similarities, but yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting because when I first heard it, I didn't know if they had live instruments or not. And watching them live, it is all just DJs. But like obviously the Beastie Boys are playing with live instruments. So I don't know if that would be quite a cool approach for. I know Jurassic 5 don't really make records anymore. Be interesting to see them working with a live band maybe. Again, I thought, this is the sort of hip hop I would hear in trendy clothes shops in Bournemouth back in the day. I have no idea what they're spitting about, but it works for me.
Yeah, the lyrics that I wrote are, we conjugate verbs and constipate nerds like you. We got incarcerated minds, men, women, and enzymes, vibing off the rhymes sent from the divine essence, presence, effervescence, not to be contested. And I wrote, is this if Beck could rap? If Beck could rap, he would do something. This one and the next one actually, because it's he's someone else where he's using the big words, but you like him for it, and definitely that's the case with Jurassic 5. So what's your fourth pick, Kobi?
So the fourth pick is Great Expectations off the Quality Control album, and this is a bit harder beat wise than the others, but then it's lyrically these guys are just it's just super tight, and the interplay just chef's kiss.
Yeah, this was my favorite off the list. Yeah, I thought it was the catchiest song. I thought the hook was great. I like how it changes for a beat in the middle, almost like there's a bridge, but then goes back to the original tune because it wrong foots you, and I really enjoyed that section. And it references Manic Monday, Bruce and Demi. How could I not love it?
I think Akil says that in the film Jurassic Park, they took the DNA from something old and made something new for modern times. And that's why they were happy being called Jurassic 5, because they were doing that themselves. Like they're taking, like a James Bond beat and a jazz, bass line, and then creating something new and organic. And that's kind of why they're happy being called Jurassic 5. And this is very much that, it's the old creating new, and it works beautifully. And it's one of the best beats of the 5 tracks, definitely.
Great stuff. And yeah, I think it still finishes on a high with your final pick, Kobi.
Okay, so my final pick is The Thin Line, and this is one of the rare occurrences where they've pulled in a guest vocalist in the shape of Nelly Furtado. This is from the Power in Numbers, which is probably the album I listen to most, actually, of theirs. Basically, I like it's an interesting story in this, telling the story of like unrequited love, or the friend zoning. Should men and women just be friends in a Harry Met Sally kind of vibe? I just think this is quite fun, quite light-hearted compared to other of their songs.
Yeah, I was shocked this wasn't a single. I can't see any reference or any videos or anything for it at all.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. There's literally barely any music videos for Jurassic 5 online at all.
I didn't check, but yeah.
You just went the Puff Daddy route.
I was like, I know which one I'm going to prioritize, and it's going to be Puff Daddy for watching the videos.
But yeah, I mean, I like Nelly Furtado. I had no idea that she had done a track. I think her parts are brilliant. It's catchy as hell. This is probably the most mainstream of all the tracks on here. You could imagine this being on the radio, so I don't know why it's been buried. Maybe it's me not being into that genre as much, but I don't know if it was successful at all. Babs, do you know the song?
I didn't know the song at all, and I thought Nelly Furtado was an unusual choice, but I guess I'm Like a Bird was 2001, so maybe they brought her on. She has a good voice. I totally agree, it absolutely works. But yeah, I was surprised that I'd never heard of it. It wasn't bigger. I thought it was very different to the other 4 songs. I was thinking, this is their third album, right? So they're trying something different, and they have 3 different samples here, which I wouldn't have noticed, which they use quite cleverly. And I wrote similar to you, Kobi, that this is the most intelligent song I've ever heard about the friend zone. And I thought the building together of the samples, it reminded me a little bit of Glory Box by Portishead, which itself is an Isaac Hayes sample. So yeah, again, that we're going back and back and back and back, and even though we're referencing lots of different songs and there's lots of different samples, it's still creating something new and extremely enjoyable. Really, really nice finish, and it just goes to show that they seem to be one of those bands that even when they go in a different direction, you're not missing anything. The quality is still there, and it's still very enjoyable. So yeah, bizarre that this wasn't bigger. Just
a bit of insider baseball for you listeners. Obviously, because we're recording in front of computers, you can do some Googling. The Thin Line wasn't a single release, which is interesting because Nelly Furtado was pretty huge at this point. Yeah. So other artists would have definitely used her as the big get, but she's almost like a hidden treat.
From 2000 to 2010, that was her time, really. And yeah, definitely a wise choice, not an obvious choice, but one that worked.
So yeah, I'm looking at stat Concrete Schoolyard was the only hit in the UK. It got to number 35. All the rest didn't even chart. This is bizarre, not really.
Well, and that's where you get. I guess that's where a lot of the underrated side of things comes, is because I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear how their albums charted. I think their albums would have charted better than the singles and would have been more pervasive. And I see these guys more of an album artist than the singles one. Whereas Puff Daddy, people will know his big songs, but then I think like I said before, he might have 2 good songs on an album, and then the rest of them just be like horseshit. So
yeah, Quality Control was the biggest album, got number 23, which is good but not amazing. And then Power's in number 46, Be Back 59. So, it was they weren't exactly hitting it hard.
I will tell you the Spotify stats that they have just under 1 million monthly listeners. So that's maybe more than I would have thought, but yeah, not. Puff Daddy, for comparison, I haven't looked him up yet, and I'm doing that as we speak, has 7.1 million. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I would have thought Puff Daddy was going to be higher than that. So I'm quite happy with that.
Me too. Although again, he had a single in 2021. Apparently he was featured on KBS by Fumibo Z, I don't know. But that only has 52,000 plays.
If Come With Me was on there, it'd be a lot higher.
Yeah, Come With Me. I'm
at least I would be
the second we get off this record, that's what I'm gonna go and listen to. Yeah, and I mean, Tupac has such a sort of legacy and reputation as well. Again, like when I don't know if I was aware when he died, but I was definitely aware of all the tributes that came afterwards, and I was like, don't know who that is. Seems sad. Same with Notorious B.I.G. So I think because Jurassic 5 have this very specific sound, you know that it's kind of a modern take on old school hip hop, but somehow it seems timeless. Like I think it's always a good time to listen to this kind of music, and like you were saying, Kobi, like you can sit down and listen to the lyrics, you can groove to it in a club, or you can sit down reading The Guardian while listening. So it's multi-purpose music.
It is.
So are they underrated? In my opinion, absolutely. The fact that I knew none of the songs and I enjoyed all of them to some extent. I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to do some further listening.
Yeah, definitely. In the documentary I saw, Charlie Tuna was driving along and he's plugging a portable CD player into his tape deck to listen to music. And at the same time, I was looking at Puff Daddy and thinking that shows the diversity in two artists right there. So yeah, definitely.
I did that with the portable CD player into a fake machine.
That's how Charlie listens to music in 2002. So yeah, they're definitely underrated, because I was expecting them to be big on the albums, because I always knew they were like, looked upon as being one of the best hip hop bands of the past 20 years. But I guess no one's listening to them still. It's just pretty sad.
But this is the thing, like Kobi already mentioned a lot of these people. Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, etc. I had heard of all of those and definitely know a couple of songs, but Jurassic 5 not at all. I wouldn't have even been able to tell you that it's hip hop. So it really surprises me. And I think the late 90s, early noughties, it was a much more genre siloed time where it was like you're either into rock or either into hip hop. And this is absolutely one of those bands that breaks through, and in this more thankfully open-minded world, definitely still have a position, and I'm sure new legions of fans to find.
Is it a case that, like with De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest, they were being used in modern artists, like for Gorillaz, for example, and the Chemical Brothers were using their MCs? Have any of Jurassic 5 been on other people's records to keep them fresh? Charlie
Tuna definitely. He's been on things like Ozomatli. Akil does a lot of stuff with DJ Format. Cut Chemist is a name I know of.
Yeah, Cut Chemist I'd heard of either, but thought it was a dance act. Didn't realize it was anything related to Jurassic 5. So yeah. So
I think they're doing their own things. Maybe not as big, not as in your face as other people would be, or you just maybe not listen to the tracks that like I say, Gorillaz and Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett are doing a fantastic job of bringing a lot of these artists, like Farside, for example. Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of people heard of Farside for the first time because of Gorillaz. They are doing stuff, definitely. I'm not sure about in the past 5 or 10 years, but they definitely were in there and around and using other people's tracks.
Yeah, let's get that up to 1 million at least per monthly listens on Spotify, guys. Go off and listen. So before the record, Kobi, Fran and I were talking about the Wu-Tang name generator, which I thought would be a fun thing to do because this is our first sort of hip hop episode. So I've put our names through the Wu-Tang name generator. Are you ready to listen to what your Wu-Tang name would be?
Yeah, and just before we do this, isn't this where Childish Gambino got his name from?
That was going to be my next fact, and I'm delighted that you're the one that took it from me. Yeah, it absolutely is. Sure. But I think he was luckier. So I put my name, Barbara Middis George, in, and it came up as Pioneer Reputable, which I feel like is a very Jurassic 5 kind of, and that is a bit of a mouthful. One or the other. Kobi, unfortunately, I'm devastated to break this to you that you are now known as Tree-Toed Musty. I'm very sorry. And Fran, you've got it the worst, I'm afraid, because you are Witch Doctor Stinky. So there we go. Not what was your rap name that you told me? Fly Franny Flow or something?
Yeah, Fly Franny Flow.
Yeah,
but
sorry about that. You are now Witch Doctor Stinky. So there we go. Apologies. Fun game to play with all the family.
Well, you can do the announcement from like Puff Daddy did to P Diddy.
Yeah. That's it.
You can send out that press release.
Oh, I forgot to say, I saw on Wikipedia why he's called Puff Daddy. It's because he was given the nickname Puff as a child because he would huff and puff when he was angry, which I thought was quite funny.
And I have to say, when I was looking for Puff Daddy on Spotify, it wasn't there, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Have all of his songs up there? And then I thought, "Oh, is it P Diddy?" Oh yeah, it's P Diddy.
I mean, yeah, I think we've referred to all his names throughout. For me, he's always Puff Daddy. Like that's how I knew him first. But I think he's on there as just Diddy at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, sorry, Sean. So yes, Kobi, thank you very much for coming on today. You've been a great guest, and I'm so glad that we've finally done a hip hop episode. But Kobi, do you want to talk about who you are, what you do, what you want to plug while you're here?
Yeah, so I'm a podcaster and produce a few podcasts, but mainly I'm known for FlixWatcher, which is a podcast where myself and Helen, our co-hosts, we get other podcasters on. And they pick films off of Netflix in the UK, and we talk about them and just have a laugh about them in a high level. And we've had podcasters, large and small. So it's just all good fun. And the other podcast I'm quite well known for is The Wire Stripped, where I go through each episode of The Wire with my friend Dave Corkery, and we have guests and cast members on the show talking about their scenes and their favorite scenes and stuff like that as well. So check us out there, FlixWatcher and The Wire Stripped, if you're interested.
Absolutely, check out FlixWatcher. Obviously, the episodes I guested on, but others. I mean, I saw you had Adam and Joe as guests, which is fantastic.
Yeah, small podcasters.
Yeah, very very tiny, not very well known. And yeah, when I saw that you did The Wire Strip, so The Wire, I saw the first season, really enjoyed it, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I think I need to old school go and get the DVD box set and make my way through it in total. So once I've done that, I will definitely come and listen to that podcast.
I think that I've always wanted to watch The Wire and Sopranos. And I think if I hadn't managed to watch it over lockdown, I'm never going to watch it. I'm not going to lie to myself.
Thank you very much for coming on, Kobi.
Cheers, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And yeah, go and check out his podcasts and have a marvelous day. Stay safe out there. See you.
Bye.
Bye. And that's another episode of Over Underrated. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you get in touch. We would love to do another hip hop episode. We would love to do many other themes and bands. So what would you like to listen to? Let us know on @OUMusicPod on Twitter, @OverUnderatedMusicPod, or you can email us overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. I will still be at the beach, contemplating life, enjoying myself, and getting fanned by beautiful men surrounding me. It's not a bad life, this one. The one of the podcaster, eh? See you guys.